the best time to get money is when you don't need money. Don't be afraid to earn money outside of music. You get the worst terms when you need it because you're just looking at the dollar sign and you're like, oh, I got to sign this. You'll probably be in a better situation if you don't need it, because let's say you signed maybe a smaller deal than you probably could have gotten. If you recoup that deal, you have great credit with that publisher, right? So now I can go back and negotiate even a bigger deal. And I've heard a lot of stories like that where they signed for 150 grand and then 2 years later they're signing for 2 million. And then you took a little check to kind of feel good about it, and then you recoup that and you can go in and sign a bigger deal.
The best time to get money is when you don't need it. I feel
Calling back, got some keys.
And we back with another episode of the Producer Royalty Podcast, and we're here today with my guy, Whit.
What's going on, brother?
What's up, Whit? How are you today?
Doing good.
Doing good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say congratulations because you recently got the placement, the sync placement on the Thursday Night Football with Amazon. Correct?
Yep. With Shabuzi, yeah.
That is huge. That is like, I feel like for a lot of producers, one of the biggest types of placements they could get. Like especially this is Amazon's like first year doing it, right?
Yeah, I think this is their first time doing a theme song or some sort of intro song. So it's super cool that they asked Boozy, and he's on top of everything right now, so it makes sense. And the song came out, awesome. Like everything.
Oh, they actually dropped the song.
So, well, they didn't release it on streaming.
Not
I
yet.
think there's some sort of like option that they could, but for right now, it's just the intro. But everything I'm seeing online, everybody's saying this is the best intro song there is for football.
Yeah.
They need to release it. Where is it at? So that's good feedback. But yeah, it's pretty surreal for sure.
That's awesome, bro. I think, was that something, can you speak about how that wound up happening? Because I know, like I was saying, like there's a lot of producers that would love some play like that to happen, but I know a lot of times something like that you can't even plan for. Right?
Yeah, it wasn't really planned. It happened during a time where I was with Kevin Powers, who is one of my best friends and who I came up in music with, and he just recently signed to American Dogwood, Shabuzi's label with Empire. And we were just working on music over like the July 4th weekend, and they happened to, have this song be pitched to them, I think a while back, but they needed to make an Amazon song, and they ended up choosing this song that was pitched to them, but it was kind of catered more towards like Friday night, and like it was like a drinking song. So we were tasked with like changing the lyrics because the song was made. I mean, like the melodies were there, the beat was pretty much there, and then Sean Cook ended up coming in and like executive producing it. But yeah, not really something you can plan for. I think it was like, right place, right time. But obviously, I believe that everything you did before that moment, you put yourself in that position to be in that right place, right time. I don't see that as like luck or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, just that connection that I've had with Kevin. Then I was able to, meet Boozy over those like couple of days, and got to make some other music with him. And then, I was able to, show that I could be an asset in the room. And then when it came time to make that song, it was like they invited me into the session, and I was able to play a part in it. So
Word. Yeah, it seems like you're a lot more than just a beat maker too, right?
Yeah.
What's often your contribution in situations like this?
So for this example of the situation, I was strictly just writing lyrics. Melody was pretty much there. I was helping with maybe some harmonies, but it was really just changing the lyrics to match what we needed for the Amazon song. So I think that's, like you said, I have in my TikTok bio, it's like more than a beat maker. So like I pride myself on being a true producer, and I feel like a producer, you wear so many hats, and you have to call yourself a producer, because a producer is not just a beat maker. You may not even touch the beat. It might just be putting people in the room and being in there, maybe directing it. And sometimes you have to play that role. But I really think it's just filling in gaps, I think is what a producer is.
So what's your philosophy when you lock in with the artist for the first time and it's like, let's make some music together? How do you usually approach like working with them?
I think it's so important you're not going to learn who they are in that 6-hour session, and who they are just in that one session. But I think it's really important to establish some sort of rapport before you ever even play any music, right? Like before any demos are played or any beats are played, it's like, let's where are you from? Like let's get into meeting each other personally, and you kind of feel out the vibe, and get to know them as much as you can in that time, and just talk. I mean, I feel like having a conversation is one of the most important things to do in a session, because a lot of times subconsciously the direction of that session will probably come out in that conversation. It's like, what type of music you've been listening to? I've been on this, and I wanted to write a song about this, and that just comes out, right? That'll just come out in a conversation. And as a producer, that helps me a lot to have some sort of direction, because I feel like I can make any beat or any instrumental or write any song, but if I don't have any, if the artist that I'm with doesn't know what they want to do, and then I might just make what I want, and that might not be what the artist wants. And I'm there to service the artist, and that's what a producer is there to do.
I picture you like a Rick Rubin, because you're so chill and good with people and like a good communicator. I picture you like really helping bring the best out of an artist. I've never seen you in the room, but that's how I picture you.
And that's why that conversation is so important, because I feel like I've been in sessions where it really did take an hour to kind of get through that conversation, to cut through, to get some sort of creative direction on where we want to go with the session. And if you can't last an hour in a conversation and you get awkward, or it's like, you can only be what you are, and you're playing off that artist's persona as well, and their personality. So that's important, for them to have that too. But yeah, I think it's definitely more on you to be the outlet, and to be that person that an artist can be vulnerable or comfortable with. Because if you're a weirdo, an artist is like not going to share something that's close to them. You're probably not going to make a song that's close to them. So that's what you're chasing, is you're trying to make a song that artist has an emotional connection to. At the end of the day, those are the songs that are going to come out.
Is there anything that you do to make them comfortable? Any maybe tips or tricks, or just like, is it just purely organic and like in the moment, or anything that you ever think about?
It's so organic, and it's funny. I think about like this type of advice that I could give right here.
Yeah,
I could tell you my experience, but you're not going to go what I went through, and you may go through something like it. But I really think is getting shots up. Like, get in the room with an artist as much as you can. I don't care if you live in a small town or wherever you're from. Like, just get in the room with an artist and be a part of that from scratch.
And artist, like one artist, or just artists in general?
Any artist, yeah, like any artist you can. I don't care if they have anything going on. Maybe they don't have any songs out. If you're making beats and you're becoming a producer, I think it's so important to get in the room with that artist, because that's how I start. I from the day that I was making the beats, I was also writing lyrics. I was also writing melodies with the artist. So that I wasn't just the beat maker. I had to, fill in other gaps. And I think doing that from the start, now at a little bit more of an elevated level, I'm able to just kind of like go back to where I started and be like, hey, this is what I've been with the artist since day one. Like, Kevin and I made every song that we made together. It was just us two in a room, in our bedroom, probably, just making it from scratch. So
even if you don't have, even if it's not your beat, you're still contributing in the session and stuff. Like, you'll use other people's beats and
definitely. I mean, especially now, because it's just a timing thing, and there's so many talented people. There's a couple of people that I work with that I'll be like, hey, just send me beats for this artist that you think that they could get on, and then maybe just for a timing thing, right? We're in the session, I'll play that beat, maybe they like it, but maybe it just needs a little post production. So that's maybe where I'll step in and kind of get it across the finish line. But yeah, I definitely do that. And I think
you
that's
engineer
important too. Yeah, I engineer. Yeah.
You said it with a little hesitancy.
Yeah, I feel like engineering is such a taste thing. It's like, I remember like going through a time where I was like looking up tutorials on like how to engineer. It's so hard to like, you can figure out what a compressor does and do all that. I just feel like I just kind of go off of feel and what feels good. So if I'm in a session and I've been using FL Studio since I started, so I can pull up and record an artist and make it sound good for the day of. I haven't stepped into doing any post-production engineering where like I'm actually mixing vocals for like a deliver. I've done it for artists before, but if I'm in the room with somebody that's, signed and they already have like a legendary, mix and master engineer.
So you focus mostly on recording.
Okay, like I'll get the record to a point where it's listenable, and if it's a demo, I'll get it to where we can bounce it out that day of and we can feel good about it. And if we want to finish it, send it to post-production and stuff like that.
Gotcha. What are some other things that you do as a producer to try to keep your career leveling up, aside from actually the craft part of it?
Well, I think content has been big, and I've been flaky with content, but I think recently over the last couple of months, I've found the lowest lift type of content that performs, and I've just gone gung-ho about it. And low lift meaning it's not going to take too much time out of my day, of making music. And it's something that is just kind of second nature at this point. When I make something, it's like, boom, pull up CapCut, screen record myself on my camera, and then boom, we're done. It takes 30 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, you do it that quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
got-
what do you do? Like, what's your content workflow?
So
If you-
my content right now that I'm doing is like I'll make a melody or I'll make a beat, and then once I'm done, I'll go back and screen record just like little chopped up clips of how I made it and like what sounds I used, and maybe it's like what effect that I put on this, and and then at the end I'll show like the full sound, and then like the caption will just be like a native Instagram, TikTok, YouTube caption. It'll be like POV, you're working on blank's album, and like I'm actually not working on that album, but it's like for the viewer or the producer that might hear that, it helps the algorithm kind of push that to those
for sure.
the
And
people
you'll
that
get
you're
that done in
targeting.
30 to 60 minutes.
Yeah, so it's like if I make a melody, it's like boom, immediately open up CapCut, just like get it done. Like I feel like if you separate that, you won't do it. If you make the melody and then you like go and do something else, maybe you will. Maybe you'll find time to do it. But I just feel like...
So you do it right away. You're saying by separate, you mean like in the same session, essentially. Like,
exactly.
Right? As soon as you're done and you're still excited about it, and like you'll make that. And then,
exactly. That's good. When you're excited, when you're energized about what you just made, it's so much easier to just like record it and feel good about posting it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you can get, analysis paralysis, right? And it's like, is this even good enough for me to post? And I've done that before where I've made a melody and I didn't do that. And then I listened to it and I'm like, this isn't good enough to put out there. So I think it's important to just shoot it, edit it, get it ready to go. And then if you don't want to post that one and you want to save it, at least you have it, right? At least you have that piece of content. But that's been big for me because that just helps with networking. Like it's so big. I've had videos that had 300 views and somebody's main producer, hit me. I'm like, hey, this is fire. Like, send this to me.
Yeah.
It's like I don't care if it gets.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like it doesn't
or,
have to get much views at all to just reach
matter.
that certain person. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's how you present it and how you frame it because obviously the algorithm, what you're putting into it is who it's sending it to.
Word.
So it's so important to be very specific on who you're trying to target. You're talking to one person on that's looking on their phone that's scrolling.
Yeah.
You're not talking to 100,000 people because that takes the intimacy out of it, and you could kind of blur the lines of who you're trying to target. So it's like I'm targeting people that listen to Yeet, right? Fans of Yeet that like to see producers that are working on Yeet stuff. I'm also targeting Yeet's producers, or I'm targeting Yeet, right? So it's very niche. If that's the video, right? Or I'm doing Don Toliver or Drake or whoever it is that I'm doing the video for.
That makes sense.
But yeah. So content, sure, it's big.
Yeah, and you were doing content for bands for a while as well too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I was brought on. Ramin brought me on to help with the content for bands.
And what is bands for people who don't know?
So bands is a mobile application that where you can see all of your royalties that you're accruing from your placements that you have out. So they're pulling in master royalties, publishing royalties, and you're able to see in real time how much you made that day, that month, that year. Then you can also make projections, and it helps you kind of plan out your income that you have coming from your music that's out.
Word. And I love the platform a lot, and shout out what they built with bands. And you were making, what I want to ask you about is like a lot of producers want to stay entirely focused on the actual producing side of it, but you've been able to dabble with some other companies in marketing and consulting and things like that. So I want to ask you, how has that contributed to your career as a producer? Like, what has that been like?
Well, I think going back to the point about being just a personable, being somebody that some people are comfortable with, that I can just attribute to the experience that I've had, helping companies like Producer Royalty, like bands. Like I had a startup that I was with for the last year, DGI Apparel, which is actually in the clothes and the apparel world. It's like outside of music. It was a great opportunity that one of my best friends from high school started, and he asked me to come on, and it was something that you just can't turn away. So I laugh sometimes because I'm like, dang, sometimes I'm like too personable that I get offered a position like that, and it's outside of music, and it's maybe not something I'm extremely passionate about. But I think I've kind of decided that my passion lies from just building stuff from scratch. And I think that's what music is, right? Is just taking something that's in my brain and just putting it out. And I think that's the same thing with content, same thing with startup companies, clothes, merch, and helping. And I'm working on some projects with my buddy Keith Powers, who's an actor who's been in some really cool films, and he's killing it right now. But we're working on a blank company. Like we're gonna start making blanks and manufacturing blanks, and so that's something that we're working on and that I'm excited about. But yeah, I think just working with different companies in different industries and just being a sponge, honestly. And that makes me be able to go into a session and be so wide.
Yep.
Like that artist could tell me anything, and I'm probably gonna have some sort of knowledge on it and be able to give back. To
that makes a lot of sense, bro, because you become somebody that it can contribute so much value across the board. You know what I mean? And then, but yeah, like you did amazing work with bands, and now we decided that we wanted to lock in with you and then bring in another face to the producer royalty content a little bit. So that's the official announcement of that. So
hard launch.
Hard launch coming. Yeah. So what are you thinking with producer royalties content? What do you think there's some things that we should do or could do a little bit more of? I want to maybe use this as an opportunity to talk a little bit behind the scenes about like what we might be thinking about with producer royalty.
Honestly, I think this and just getting, like I said about producers, getting in the room with artists. I think you should be setting up meetings with everybody that you can that has some sort of experience on this this niche industry that you guys are targeting with master royalties and producers, and it's niche, but it's so important because in my opinion, I feel like producers are what drive the next sound, and the next artist that's going to be built is going to be built on the backs of producers and whoever's pioneering this new sound that's going to come up. Because I've heard this said a couple times, but it's like the best songs in the world had no beat. Some of them could rock, but if they didn't have any beat, then you got nothing.
The best songs in the world have no. What do you mean?
The best songs in the world, if they didn't have a beat,
if they didn't have a beat,
they wouldn't be.
Okay,
They wouldn't be the best songs in the world. It's like I feel like the producers are who push music forward. So I think it's just important to get in the room with every producer manager that you can, and artists too. I mean, I think it's also interesting to get the perspective of an artist when it comes to master royalties and what their relationship like is with producers, right? Like how do they see this kind of issue that you guys are tackling when it comes to the transparency for getting paid, when it comes to getting paid for producers and songwriters and engineers, and because I think it's important, and I think that you should be compensated for your art, and we get the smallest piece of the pie, and I feel like we're given the biggest piece of the record. So but getting in the room, I think is and you guys you kill it. I mean you're already on top of it, and I'm able to see behind the scenes and how much your outreach and how in the trenches you are with it. Yeah.
That's really what differentiated us is this, I tried to, when I first started it, we just try to connect with as many people as possible, and like similar to you, just be a sponge, and like, I made it a thing to try to have that little kid interested in people energy. Like I just like interested in like what everybody had going on. Yeah. It was something that I think coming up was actually like a flaw of mine. People would say was like, I would just like, sometimes I would just straight up just ask people questions and not even participate in a conversation because I was just like rapid fire. Like I remember one of my exes was like, bro, you're not even talking. You're just asking like mad questions. And that translated into starting a podcast. That was like, my friend started a podcast and he was like, yo, you ask great questions. I want you to host a podcast. And then I did that for like 2 years. And then we stopped that podcast. And then he was like, I don't know if I ever talked about this on publicly, but like
I've never heard this, and I've seen a lot of your clips.
Oh, really? Yeah. So then he didn't want to do the podcast anymore. It was growing really fast, and like I was really excited about it. I was about to build the whole law firm around the podcast. It was a music industry focused podcast, and then he wanted to move to Bali and stop it. And he was like, "Yo, I'm gonna give you access to my studio. Since I'm stopping it, I'm cutting you out. Like I'm gonna give you access to my studio for 2 months. You can make content or do whatever you want to do with it, but we're not doing the podcast anymore. So you gotta start something new." So it was because of that gave me like, all right, so what do I know how to do? I was working for Adam Friedman at the time, and I was working with a lot of producers, so I knew how to help producers get paid. Yeah. And then I knew that there was a lot of lawyers that the lawyers that were young and were successful, they did 3 things I noticed. They were with the culture, and they were outside having conversations. They made content, and they worked with producers. So I was like, all right, so I'm going to start a brand that's focused on the producers and making content. So that's where Producer Royalty came about. And it was from being really interested in people and having a little bit diverse, like, perspective on things that allowed me to start the media side of it.
Well, I think it's just an interesting point that you bring up about how you got started is from what you would maybe look at as like a loss, right? It's like your friend moved to Bali. I mean,
was
I'm
heartbroken,
sure you were
bro.
gutted. Yeah.
I was more upset about that than I was like when I actually like lost my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like it felt like I lost something I was building,
Right.
and like there was nothing I could do about
But
it.
to that point, I think it's so important to miss. I mean, you have to miss.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even just with this startup that I was involved with, and I was the head of growth, and was on salary and had equity in the company, and it was a great situation. I was still able to do music. Being in Los Angeles, and we got sued, and we were a very disruptive company, so we had a lot of companies come after us, and we ended up having to shut it down. And obviously, being on salary, having equity, that was a gut punch, right?
Yeah.
But if that didn't happen, I'm not in that session with Shabuzi and Kevin doing the Amazon, because it was during the day. I would have been working. I wouldn't have been able to be there. It's just it's very serendipitous. I believe it's divine. I believe that there's a purpose for everything, and that's God. But it's so important to miss. You have to miss. It sucks. When it happens, it's that gut punch.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, it's just gonna make you more hungry. It's gonna make you more aggressive. At taking shots, and I think that's super important. So that might be, I think, what that would be my, like you asked for my advice for producers, is just shoot. Shoot and miss.
Yeah.
And miss. I mean, you don't try to miss, but you're gonna miss.
What are some shots you wish you would have taken earlier, or that more producers can take? Maybe they don't match you.
Honestly, I wish that I committed more to my brand earlier, and that's not just content, but I think content obviously is a big a big piece of that. But just like committing to what you do and who you are, and being proud of it, and it's not something that a lot of people can do. Make music is, I don't know if you noticed, but everybody wants to make music.
Yeah.
Not everybody can make music, and I think that even the people that are around music that don't make the music, they would love to make the music, but it's not something a lot of people can do. So I think it's just like having pride in that, and committing to your brand, and that's gonna flood into making content. Starting a website, selling your beats, like maximize the revenue streams, in music, and just take pride in it and really own it. I wish I did that earlier. I feel like I've come around to that now, but yeah,
it seems like you're taking all the right steps, bro.
Yeah,
you're continuing to keep building and doing the right thing. So yeah.
Just compound, just stack the bricks.
Right? I remember how we met was through Adam Friedman, who is like I mentioned before, the lawyer that trained me on producers, and you were one of his clients, and you were the only producer out of all the ones that I had worked with that, like, I don't know how it wound up getting set up, but we were on a call, and you were asking questions about the producer agreement that you were given, and Adam asked me, like, one of my first client interactions was breaking down that producer agreement to you. Do you remember how that got set up? Did you ask specifically?
I remember
like,
exactly
for that?
where I was when we had that call.
Yeah, me too.
But I think I was interested in, because I learned what redlining was, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, we can like change the agreement and like get it to fit what it's supposed to say. Because there's things that I don't know what it's supposed to say, but there's also things that I would want in there in just layman terms, right? But obviously, contractual language is different, and that's why you should have a lawyer. But I think that got set up because I was like, I think I asked Adam, I was like, hey, I want to talk to Daniel just about what the contract says, and I want to understand it. And I think he was like, oh yeah, sure, we'll set it up.
That's such a simple thing, but no producers do that, bro. Like nobody asks, like, so I see you redline the contract. Can you explain to me what these changes are?
Yeah.
Like nobody does that.
It takes 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like just ask your lawyer. Like if you're on retainer, it's worth that 10 minutes. I don't care if you're paying hourly. It's worth that 10 minutes to understand, because if you're planning to do this full time and you're going to be getting these agreements, you should know what it says. You should have faith in your lawyer, but you should also just be knowledgeable. It's not like you should be knowledgeable and you should be like, well, I think you're doing it wrong. It should just be like, okay, I understand, what this means. I understand what recoupable advance, means, or it's or net, or like net royalties, right?
Yeah.
Compared to gross royalties, and you should understand that stuff. So take a 10-minute call, 15-minute call with your lawyer, and break down your producer contract. I think that will set you up.
Yeah, and that's the benefit of having a lawyer on retainer. When you have them, like a lot of producers don't want to have a lawyer on retainer, but I'll speak from my experience. When a producer doesn't have you on retainer and you have a million other things you could do, it's a lot more difficult to justify that conversation with them. Because the way it works is the retainer is the client giving you a bunch of money up front, $1,000, $2,000 a lot of times, and then every 6 minutes, they usually do in 0.1 increments, you get billed, so which is 6.1 of an hour. They reduce the amount. Like if your lawyer's hourly is $500 an hour, every 0.1 is $50, I guess it costs, right?
Yeah.
So when you put them on retainer, you take a call with them and you ask your questions, then they deduct it from that. So that's really the only way that the lawyer will feel like kind of guaranteed that they're going to get their time back, I guess. So that's the benefit of having it. Yeah.
And it's worth it. And I think you should, if you are somebody that's scared that a lawyer is going to be like fudging time, you guys are governed, right? Like you can't just fudge time. You can get very much in trouble for that.
Yeah.
And if you have any inkling that your lawyer will be fudging time, you probably shouldn't be with that lawyer because maybe you got some information that person is whoever. But that's not something you should be scared of, and it's 100% worth the time to take a call and set that precedent, right? It's like, hey, I just want to take 10 minutes to understand this call. And maybe that's an email, right? Maybe I send that email to Daniel. I go, hey, can we hop on the phone for 10 minutes? Hard cut on 10 minutes. I just want to understand what this contract says.
Yeah.
Your lawyer is probably going to come in with the plan. Okay, I got 10 minutes. I'll let them know exactly what it says, and then we'll be good.
Yep.
So it's just about communication. It's like being upfront and just communicate. With the people that are on your team. I think that's super important.
Nah, very well said, bro. I haven't had this conversation yet on camera, but I think that's super important. Yeah. What do you think that a producer should look for in a lawyer? How did you find Adam?
I think I found Adam. I think Based One, producer. I think he put on his story and was like, Adam Friedman, best producer lawyer.
Yeah, those really go so far.
Yeah, and I think that I had maybe like I had a contract that I had in my hand that I was looking at, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what this says. Like, I need help.
Yeah.
And then I knew I had another placement coming in, so I was like, okay, it's worth whatever I'm going to get from these advances. It'll pay for that first, retainer, and I'll for sure get to these two agreements, with that retainer.
Is that how you looked at it? Like the first event? Yeah.
Because I think I had known what Adam was charging for the retainer, and I was like, okay, I know what my advances are. I know it's going to pay for that. It's 100% worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of the best decisions I've made, to do that and to start working with Adam, and because now it's like agreements are so cake. I mean, they're done in 2 weeks. It's like, and really it's done in 2 weeks because there's like 2 to 3 days between each email response.
For sure.
But each response is something's getting done, and it's not like a back and forth. It's, I'll kind of how I do it is I will be in these email threads with these labels or these teams. I'll get them to send me the material terms. I will negotiate my material terms. I will then go to Adam and be like, hey, these are my material terms that we've agreed upon. This is what it should say on the contract. Here's a contract. Put them in the chain, and then I can wipe my hands.
It's a dream client right there, bro. That's a dream. You're making the lawyer's job way easier by doing that. Yeah. Saving yourself money and in the process as well too. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
If I can reduce a headache for someone else, and I had the time to do it, maybe one day I won't have the time to do that, but when I had the time to do it, it's 100% worth it. Because I learn as well. It's just like setting up that call with your lawyer.
Yep.
You being part of that negotiation process. Obviously, I'm like my biggest pet peeve, even in my personal life. This might even trump things in my personal life. Is a producer holding up a record. I don't like it. I think you should be able to reach an agreement. But I think being part of those conversations is important to not let that happen, and obviously don't get in the way yourself and let the professionals do what the professionals do.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to be a part of that stuff and to save a headache for your lawyer. I mean, if you can save a lawyer is someone who you want to be on their good side, and I think it's important to do that.
Word. Yeah, you have a good lawyer that like moves things along at a pretty good rate, but like especially guys who a lot of producers reach out to the biggest lawyer they know and they think they're gonna. But like when you're first getting started, working with those big lawyers is like being like the worst or the least successful songwriter at the huge publisher. They're not gonna give you that much time and attention. You're not their big client. You know what I mean? Right. So. I think I think you did it the right way when it comes to working with the lawyer.
Yeah.
How do you look at managers and working with the manager?
I think management is important when you have something to manage, and I think that's what I'm even saying with like being a part of those conversations about the material terms. It's like sometimes I don't deem it necessary for you to have to pay a manager 20% to do that email when you're paying your lawyer or retainer to handle their agreement.
Word.
I think you should be able to be a part of that. I think at some point you do need management to take care of that stuff. But in my opinion, I think management is important for larger scale things, booking sessions. You know, maybe there's a record that needs to be, the production needs to be finished, and maybe it's a play that they can make for you. And I think that's what a manager do. They send it to you like, here's a layup.
Get you placements?
Here's a placement. Yeah.
Get you placements in the manager's shop?
I don't think it's their job.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it's a selling point.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a manager is important for ecosystem. I think that's what it should be doing for you, is expanding your pipeline that you already have, that's already existing. And I think you can maybe look at a publisher and a manager as maybe the same thing. I mean, like you just said, being the least successful songwriter at a publisher, they're probably not looking to put you in a bunch of rooms. But a manager's got different stake. You know, they have a little bit higher stake actually. They touch, they touch your publishing, they touch everything. They get commission, right? So they have a little bit more stake in putting you in a room and getting you a placement, because they eat off that advance, they eat off the master, they eat off the publishing. So they eat off all, 3 different sides of it, when a publisher is just getting publishing. Yeah. So
good point.
Just, you can look at it a couple different ways. I think you should get a manager when you have stuff to manage. When you start running out of time to do things, I think you should get a manager. And obviously you need to be making, I also look at it though is when you reach the point where you need a manager, you have to spend money to make money. You have to spend that 20% to make that 80%. Because if you make 100% of $0, it's not as much. I think John Bellion said it's like 10% of a watermelon is better than 100% of a grape.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
All right, 10% of a watermelon is probably bigger than a grape, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So it's like, or even you could say 80% of a watermelon is much more than 100% of a grape. So it's like, spend that 20%, once you get to the point where you can justify it, because it'll be well worth it.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And before we wrap up, what about publishing? How do you look at publishing for your career and building like a strategy around your publishing?
I think this epidemic of lack of knowledge on publishing, I think, is still very true, and the producer and the songwriters got it down. They understand that that's how they live, and I've been working. I'm actually going to Nashville next week, and I'm gonna be doing some sessions out there. But Nashville is just, it's all about pub. It's like getting the radio hits. They know that's how they make their money. As a producer, you're touching other revenue streams on the record. You're getting those master royalties. You're getting a master royalty admin, to take care of your work, like Royalty Masters, soft plug. Yeah. But they're going to take care of that for you, and then you're also getting an advance. So I think publishing is extremely important. But obviously that publishing is not going to start raking in unless you're, back to back on placements, or you're getting radio hits. But I definitely think it's important to be set up at least with an admin at some point to get started off, and then rock with that admin. Make sure that they're collecting your royalties, and then if it's time and you can justify going and signing a publishing deal, then I think the work just doesn't stop. You should look at publishing as once you get into a situation, it only begins. You should look at it as like steroids, right? Like, I've been working super hard. Okay, now I'm with a publisher. They're not going to do anything for me. You have to look at it like they will, but you have to look at it like they're not going to be doing anything for me. You have to keep going with what you were doing before. Because I think that's where the horror stories come from. Is like, oh, I got with a publisher and then I just never recouped my advance and never made any money out the publishing. Yep. You probably got comfortable. Yeah. Right. So don't get comfortable. Don't ever be satiated. Just keep going. Yeah. But yeah, I think publishing is extremely important. Get with the admin at least, and then maybe that admin sets you up to get into a co-pub deal.
Are you with the admin now?
I'm with an admin. Yeah. I'm with Sony through BeatStars.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah. So how do you look at it with your own? Like, do you want to plan to get a co-pub at some point?
I think at some point. I think when it's justifiable. I think the best time to get money is when you don't need money. So I think you should try not to, if you got to get a job and like, don't be afraid to earn money outside of music, because I think the worst, you get the worst terms when you need it, because you're just looking at the dollar sign and you're like, oh, I got to sign this. So I think it's important to not need it. And probably that you'll probably be in a better situation if you don't need it, because let's say you signed maybe a smaller deal than you probably could have gotten. If you recoup that deal, I mean, you have great credit with that publisher, right? So now I can go back and negotiate even a bigger deal. And I've heard a lot of stories like that where they signed for 150 grand and then 2 years later they're signing for 2 million, right? It's like, you took off in that year, and maybe that's the pipeline you built. And then maybe you took a little check to kind of feel good about it. And then you recoup that and you can go in and sign a bigger deal.
Bro, that's some of the best publishing advice and well said phraseologies I've heard on this show so far, bro. That was very well. What'd you say? You get the most money when you don't need it, or something, or the best
time to get money is when you don't need it.
The best time to get money is when you don't need it. I hear so many producers. I just had this conversation yesterday that somebody said the opposite, that the best time to get with an admin is when you're already comfortable and you have good money coming in. But for now I need a co-pub to kind of launch my career, I guess, and get focused, which is one way to look at it, right? Like if you're working a part-time, full-time job and you can't focus on music, then you need some money now, I guess, to focus on the music, right? But I mean,
you could look at it as I look at a publishing deal as a business partnership anyway. It's somebody that's investing in your career that entrusts in your sound and your vision and your trajectory, or you're just getting placements, just left and right, and it's like you're just a check, and they're like, we know we're gonna make money off you. But I think for the most part, some of these smaller publishers, they're buying into you, and they have a plan for you. Maybe they have the ecosystem set up for you, and it's like you have the talent. They're just gonna plug you in and get you going. I think definitely that's one way to look at it. I just feel like I'm gonna stand on the best time to get money is when you don't need it.
I love that, bro. I'll take it
because the terms are what's important. It's like, that's why I feel like having equity in a company is more important than the salary, right? It's like, as long as you're making enough money to get by, right? If I can feed myself and feed my family, but I want equity. I want that long term, right? Because that's gonna pay out, and in the long term, it's gonna pay out way more than maybe just getting 15 extra grand on your salary, or getting 100 extra grand on your pub deal, when you weren't ready for that, right? Yeah. I think it's timing too. I think a lot of times, or everything is timing, right? If something's not happening to you right now, you're probably not ready for it, or you're probably not doing what you need to be doing for it to happen. But I think when stuff does happen, it was supposed to happen because you were ready for that. So definitely not discrediting what the conversation you had yesterday, because I think in some cases maybe you do just need that, and maybe that will be your jump start. But don't get comfortable, because if you don't recoup that, and you're not getting placements, and you're not getting advances, and you're not set up with a master admin, you're not getting your master royalties, and you're not working with independent artists, and because your independent artists are giving you 30 to 40% of the record a lot of the times if you have a good relationship, and you're justifying that. So that's something that I started off of, was working with independent artists. So I knew about master royalties for a really long time, because that's how I was making my money.
How were you getting your master royalties?
A lot of times it was through DistroKid.
DistroKid,
United Masters, Vidya, Two Lost. I mean,
they all have the split feature. That's pretty easy.
Everything's you can just split off, and you make an email with them, and for a producer, you can pretty much have a free account with all of them.
So what do you do? Like when you this will be the last thing we touch on, because I know we're running out of time. Yeah. But what do you do? Like, what's the conversation beginning to end when it comes to making sure your master royalties get collected or negotiated and collected on the independent side? Yeah,
I feel like most independent artists that I've worked with, that's how they make their money too, and that's like, because I didn't know what publishing was when I first started, because I was only making I thought I could only make money off the streams from master royalties. But usually it goes as like, okay, where are you releasing the song at? Okay, I'm releasing it through DistroKid or United Masters or Video or Two Lost or whoever it is. Okay, do I need to make an email for that? Okay, I do. I make that email, and then I get into a conversation of how much of the master royalty do I want. Or if I'm charging them for the beat, I typically don't charge independent artists for beats. I just ask for more on the master royalty. There's been situations where an artist was like, I'll give you a fee if you can come down on the master royalty. I've done that. But usually we just have a conversation, and if it's with their management or if it's with them, I have relationships with a lot of independent artists I work with, so really it's just the text, and it's like, and we do a split sheet, and we have it papered and whatnot, which is also important. So it's just making sure that you're set up with that distributor, and then when you guys agree, that artist will then send you an email, and and you have to accept those splits for the most of the time.
Yeah.
And then from there,
What do you usually ask for?
So when Kevin and I first started, and I was only working with Kevin, we were doing 50-50. And then I think when marketing came into play and Kevin was starting to spend some money on marketing, it made sense for me to drop down because I wasn't putting money into marketing. So I think right now I'm typically asking, if it's by myself, I'm asking for 25 to 35% of the master if I'm not charging a fee. And then if I'm charging a fee, I'm trying to get 10 to 20
Gotcha.
with an independent artist. And that fee is typically not
recouped. Do they have like a recoup feature that you've seen?
I don't do.
Yeah, I guess I've heard that United Masters allows you to, like, if you pay the producer a $500 advance, then they won't start giving their master royalty until that. I don't know if that's true. I haven't done it myself.
I see when I work with independent artists, I see it more as a beat fee, and it's like for you to have this beat, right? Like just the beat.
Yeah.
Like just for you to even if you didn't release it, you just want to buy that beat and it's yours. You have exclusive rights or whatever. That's what that fee is for. It's not an advance for the master. That master is just itself.
Okay.
Non-recoupable.
Yeah, it's helpful. Yeah, I don't think we've talked about that on camera either, bro. This was an insightful conversation, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
And looking forward to making content with you and seeing what we can do.
Definitely.
For sure, bro.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.